So before I start this video, I just want to say I've been sick for like the past 3 days or so, and I'm still pretty sick right now. But you know, as a semi-small channel, if you don't upload consistently on this platform, you kinda go broke. But also, some of you may have read the title and might be a bit confused as to what the purpose of this video is. So let me explain and establish a little bit of context first. As we all know, Squad, Kill the Justice League, came out about 2 weeks ago, and I made a video critiquing the story because it's the worst story I've ever seen in my life. And a big chapter of that video was going over how the story has the worst plot armor I've ever seen in a single piece of media. And in comment sections across my social medias, and even outside of my comment sections, I've seen people trying to bash the Arkham series to defend this game using terrible whataboutism arguments, and one of those things that I'd like to tackle today specifically in this video is people saying that plot armor isn't a valid criticism, or Arkham Batman also has plot armor, or people just generally not understanding what plot armor is. So I made a community post asking people to provide instances and arguments of when Arkham Batman has had plot armor. So with all that said and all that laid out, now let's get into the video. So first we need to establish what is plot armor. Now, the dictionary definition of plot armor is used to refer to the phenomenon in fiction whereby the main character is allowed to survive dangerous situations because they are needed for the plot to continue. But this definition isn't very specific, and it can be applied to almost every piece of action media. Just because a character survives a dangerous situation or does something very impressive, that doesn't inherently make it plot armor. Because if a character has the abilities, powers, skill, willpower, etc., and those things are consistent or pre-established before the character is placed into a dangerous scenario, for them to make it out of said scenario in a logical manner, keyword logical, then that is not plot armor. But if, for example, me, was to fight Reverse Flash, a normal real-world human, and I was able to beat Reverse Flash in a fight, someone who is literally faster than the concept of speed and time, then there's no logical reason why I should win that fight, because I have no reason to be winning that fight. And even if you were to give me a reason for winning that fight, like let's say the anti-Speed Force device or gold kryptonite from Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, that reason could still be poorly written and still be illogical for reasons that I laid out in that video. The 16th thing is, we obviously know when they fight Superman, and I don't even think I need to explain this. Superman scales the Flash in speed, and it is stated by Batman, Superman is stated by Batman, to be the most powerful being in the Justice League, or on the planet. Even Barry is massively confused on how Brainiac can even capture Clark. I don't need to explain this. It's fucking Superman. And I don't give a steaming shit that he's affected by gold kryptonite, purple kryptonite, pink kryptonite, cryptocurrency. It doesn't fucking matter. He doesn't need to get close to any of them, even though he could literally speed blitz any of them and knock their heads off before they can even react. But he can easily throw a car at light speed, use his heat vision from range, use his freeze breath from range, throw 100 rocks at light speed, and in the beginning of the fight, he literally can do any of the things I just mentioned, and instead he flies off for no reason, then comes back instead of doing any of that. There is literally no reason they win this fight. It's bullshit. And one more thing I'd like to establish is that humans, or rather peak humans in fictional settings, that do things that aren't possible at all by real-world standards, that is not plot armor either. Fictional universes tend to have things like exaggerated physics, durability, or physical abilities for their characters when they're human, or even when they are not human. This is why you would look stupid for saying things like, well, Batman is human, so it's not logical for him to beat up a room of 15 men, or for him to be dodging bullets, especially if it's been consistent with the character for a long time, or if it's pre-established before a dangerous situation that Batman or any other character has these capabilities. And one more caveat that I would like to establish is in regards to pre-established well-known characters like Spider-Man, for example. If, for example, in Civil War, I see his spider sense activate and save him from getting hit by Bucky right here, without it really being established beforehand that he has this ability, I will not criticize the film for that, because we all know that Peter has this ability throughout his history, if you don't live under a rock, unless you're John Watts. So that is why I would not criticize Civil War for that ability not being pre-established. So now, let's explain why plot armor is bad. One of the most basic things a writer will learn is cause and effect. In order for you to keep your story logically coherent and for the audience to stay invested in your narrative, one of the things you need to have is good cause and effect. So, for example, when I used the me versus Reverse Flash fight earlier, if that was to happen in an actual story, it can cause a disconnect to the viewer of a piece of media. But when you write a scenario that makes sense within the confines and rules of either your characters or a world, and that scenario allows the plot to progress in a logical and believable fashion, then people are less likely to get disconnected from the piece of media that they are consuming. And this even goes further than just storytelling. It can even stretch into something like music as well. When an artist makes a song and their lyrics don't flow together well, and or they might be like offbeat,
it's something about the girl that just makes my head,
then that can cause a disconnect between the song and the person listening to the song. So with that all explained, I hope that all made sense to you. Now, let's look at the examples that people have provided for why Arkham Batman apparently has plot armor in the Arkham universe. So I got a lot of comments specifically referring to how Jason has multiple chances to kill Batman in Arkham Knight, but he doesn't take them. But the situation that got the most comments, and the comment that I will be putting up on the screen because it's the most smug and snarky one, is this. Jason Todd says he wants Batman dead multiple times, and when he finally has him after putting a shot in his side, he lets him get up to whine more. Arkham Knight's story sucks. Okay. In the game, the reason why Scarecrow does not want Batman dead is because he wants to break Batman mentally. Now, Jason wants Batman to suffer as well, which is why he goes to Scarecrow in the first place and teams up with him, and more proof of this is given by the fact that Jason just doesn't break into Wayne Manor and just kill Bruce while he's in his sleep. But one of Jason's character flaws throughout the game is he gets too impulsive and he gets, like, really impatient with Scarecrow's plan, and that's why he tries to kill him in the beginning of the game, and that's why he eventually, throughout the game, like with the Cloudburst thing, that's why he eventually just says fuck it and he just says fuck you Scarecrow and he goes to kill Batman, or tries to kill Batman, sorry. So basically from the beginning of the game when Scarecrow says this to him,
time to die, old man. In death, he has nothing left to fear. Keep him away from Ace Chemicals. Your vengeance will come. This ends tonight.
he has to remind Jason to not get impatient and go along with the plan if he really wants Batman to suffer. But again, throughout the story, Jason keeps getting very impatient and impulsive, but he's still going along with the plan up until the Cloudburst section where, again, he tries to kill Batman. So when Jason shoots him in the side instead of just shooting him in the mouth or something, this is not plot armor because there is a reason why he doesn't kill Batman right here. This other comment, and this is again on the same situation, he gets shot in the hip, freezes the wound, and immediately fights an entire army with no physical deterrent, like he didn't just take a bullet in the hip. There's two things with this. We don't know exactly what Batman did to the wound. I'm assuming that this is something that Batman has prepared for, and it's something that heals him from this type of injury. I also want to point out that the bullet never goes through his armor, it's just a weak part of the armor. So it was essentially a really hard punch to the gut. And in regards to him fighting Jason's, the group of people that Jason calls in to fight Batman, yeah, Batman fighting while he is physically injured or physically deterred. Yeah, because that's totally not something that Batman has done ever in this series. He doesn't have as much plot armor as people make it sound, but acting like all the things he does and all the injuries he ignores and forgetting the people that just spare his life isn't fucking plot armor, is genuine fucking copium. No. You are coping and seething. Can I still be in the video even though I agree with you that Batman doesn't have plot armor? No. Alright, now here we go. Here's an actual argument. He's called Batman, and yet he is never a bat. This is a major plot hole. I'm gonna have to agree with you here, Isaac. I've always wondered this myself. I think Arkham Knight tried to fix this issue with Man-Bat, but it still never sat right with me. I wouldn't call it plot armor per se, but it is weird how the whole point of Arkham Knight is supposed to be that he knows everything about Batman, but we never really see him employ any tactics that would showcase just that. Did we play the same game? I'm just, he kind of did, but, okay. It's really convenient that the tanks are unmanned. Furthermore, he could just tie some people to the tanks so Batman can't just blow them up. I've seen a lot of people make this argument, not just here, but like in the past. I also made the same argument before, but the reason why Arkham Knight, or Jason Todd, or Scarecrow doesn't want to have manned tanks or people tied to the tanks is because they want Batman to fail while he's at his best. There's even a line of dialogue in the beginning of Arkham Knight where Jason Todd says to Batman, so this is why they don't put manned people in the tanks, because they want Batman to fail while he's at his best, and if he's holding back, then that would kind of defeat the purpose of what they want. I don't think it's plot armor, but this part always was weird to me. By the end of Arkham Knight, Scarecrow throws Oracle off a building. How Batman saved her and survived that fall? He literally fell from a skyscraper and walked it off. Am I stupid? Yes, but in all seriousness, he slows the rate of the fall with his cape, and he's also wearing armor that's like built to take high G's of force for his grapnel accelerator, so it's not plot armor that his armor can protect him from falling from this kind of thing, especially when he slowed down the rate of the fall. When he saves Oracle and then gets shot at by all of those tanks, were for sure plot armor, and I have more points if you'd like. I will hop in, call, and explain. He gets shot by all those tanks. Huh.
Lied.
And before someone says it's lucky that he doesn't get shot by any of the tanks are just shooting in random places where they think he landed because they don't know his exact location at this point because they literally just showed up. Batman clearly exhibits plot armor when he rejects Catwoman. Ain't no straight man turning that feline down. 2 out of 10. Yeah, I mean, you got a point. Honestly, the more I think of Batman, the more I just don't like him, or at least where he is as of now. He's supposed to be a human, at their peak admittedly, but he manages to master every martial art, be one of the smartest people in the world, including fields such as criminology, mathematics, biology, chemistry. He's created an arsenal of gadgets on hand that can help him in every scenario, while simultaneously having the resources needed to execute said contingency, and has to fight crime constantly. Rey from Star Wars couldn't even go one movie with her where her biggest feats were repairing the Millennium Falcon, mind-tricking a stormtrooper, and defeating an emotionally unstable and already injured Kylo Ren without being labeled a Mary Sue. I'm not really going to get into the Rey comparison, as I've already explained in a previous video why Rey is a Mary Sue, but as far as Batman having an arsenal of knowledge, knowing every single martial art, being like a master tactician, I don't really have an issue with this, as it's especially when it's pre-established that he has this kind of skill set. And this is also a very blanket statement when it comes to the character. There can be examples of the character where he is kind of a Mary Sue, I guess. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but in pretty much every great Batman story that I have consumed, he has some form of internal or external conflict that he has to deal with, and multiple character flaws that are explored with a lot of depth. Just because Batman is a very impressive human being, that doesn't mean he doesn't struggle. But your comment makes it out to seem like Batman doesn't have flaws or internal conflict or external conflict that he struggles with a lot, and that's just simply not the case. And it's also very blanketed, so I can't really get into the specifics.
I can't do it. I can't stop them.
No, you can't. Not on your own. But it's high time you realize that you are a man, not an island. And a man's strength comes not from just brawn and intelligence, but also from his allies.
One alert. The Joker has escaped from his cell and is leading the riots at Blackgate. Repeat, the Joker has taken over the entire prison. Multiple casualties, multiple hostages. Again, we have lost Blackgate. Captain Gordon is calling on anyone for assistance.
They need you.
No. They need us.
He obviously had plot armor in Arkham Knight, maybe a bit in Asylum. I'm a major Batman fan too, especially the Arkham Batman. But how can Batman just overcome chemical reactions that are going on in his brain just by willpower alone, where he's able to mentally overcome the fear toxin? He shouldn't be able to do that with a chemical compound to combat its effects. Arkham Knight gives Batman more plot armor. He has so much plot armor that the Arkham Knight decides to not send out manned tanks to try and get Batman. Instead, he sends out drones. Anyone that knows Batman knows why that's stupid. Well, I've already gone over the man's tanks thing, but as far as Batman mentally overcoming the fear toxin, why is that plot armor? If you have a drug that's affecting you mentally, and you overcome what it's doing to you mentally, then it's not illogical that it stops affecting you mentally. Especially with fear toxin, because fear toxin works on your fears. So if you overcome your fears at that moment, then you can overcome the fear toxin. That is not plot armor. And if it is showing in both Asylum and Night that he can overcome it through mental willpower, then it makes it consistent and it shows that that's how you can overcome it. Especially with a character like Batman, who has been established to have a very, very, like, if we're putting it on a scale of a 1 to 100, like a 100, like, willpower. The time where he willed himself out of both fear toxin and the Joker disease. While I can believe Batman resisting these, I do not buy that he could outright cure either, especially simultaneously, with zero medical assistance. No human could possibly do that. The Joker infection is specifically stated to be a heavily mutated branch of CJD, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, a disease that is incurable, untreatable, and is 100% fatal. The 100% fatal thing, that's a lie, they never said that. But anyways, it's clear that he didn't have any good ideas judging from the other patients. The idea that he can just cure his degenerative brain disorder with nothing but will is so laughable that I cannot believe anyone can take it seriously. This is actually something that I was wrong about. I made a video about this thinking that this was actually the case in the story, but Batman isn't actually affected by the Joker disease. He just thinks he is. The proof of this is given by the fact that Batman faces none of the physical effects of the Joker disease. He cured himself of Joker's blood in Arkham City, and he doesn't hallucinate anything Joker-wise up until he gets hit by the fear toxin. And people may think that he was hallucinating Joker before the fear toxin because of Batman Arkham VR, but Batman Arkham VR, that is not a hallucination, that is a nightmare. Now, people may point to the fact that Robin, sees Batman's eyes glowing green when he gets really mad at Henry Adams, and Robin points out that he thinks that Batman has the Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. But the green eyes thing could also have come from the multiple ounces of Titan that Batman has in his bloodline already, from both Joker's blood in Arkham City and getting injected with it in Arkham Asylum. Bane's eyes also turned green in Arkham Asylum. Does that mean that he has the Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease? And more proof of this is earlier in the game, when Batman gets really mad at Scarecrow because he threatens Barbara's life. His eyes do not turn green right there because he is not affected by the fear toxin right there at that point. The fear toxin mixed with the Titan in his blood is what is making Batman's eyes turn green. And when Batman stops letting himself be affected by the fear toxin, or stops letting it mentally consume him, that's when his eyes stop glowing green. Now, I will admit, this is poorly explained in Arkham Knight, but hopefully I made sense to you right now. So Batman is not affected by the Joker disease. He just thinks he is, and that's his fear. Or sorry, that's one of his fears. The time where he literally got shot in a gap in his armor, right into his left lung, got up, took an adrenaline shot, and then continued like nothing happened without removing the bullet. I've already went over that, but he says even generously assuming that the bullet somehow didn't penetrate his armor, that is still several broken ribs and a punctured lung. Immediate medical attention would be required, and he shrugs it off. Can you prove that he has several broken ribs and a punctured lung? Batman with a worse armor has been thrown through massive brick walls and punched through massive brick walls by Bane, and his armor kept his ribs or internal bones from being broken. So there's no proof that he broke anything. And also, just because you break a rib, that doesn't mean that your lung is punctured. The time where a lot of rubble falls on him from God knows how high, directly onto his torso, and he shakes it off without a problem. Another mortal injury, he's too perfect. Again, I don't know why you're making Batman out to seem like he doesn't have a very protective armor. I think being punched through and thrown through brick walls would be more than just having some rubble fall on you, and he's overcame that before in previous games. Batman is not a normal human, and he has a very protective armor. I don't know why you people can't get this. This isn't really much a case of plot armor, just a criticism of Arkham Batman. He does not feel like a human being in these games. Okay, he's not a normal human being. He feels like a robot cosplaying as Batman. I don't care. The only exception is when someone dies. Otherwise, he is an unfeeling, optimal, perfect hero that is never wrong about anything and never makes any mistakes ever. You did not play these games. And that is just so boring. There is no humanity in the hero whose entire appeal is his humanity. And this interpretation has completely poisoned what people believe Batman should be. And as far as him saying that Batman is a perfect person, I've already made a video on Arkham Origins, so I'm not going to talk about that game. Arkham Asylum, I don't really remember that game's story all that much to go in depth with his character arc and what it was in that game, but people have already made videos about that, so you can go watch those videos. But as far as Arkham City and Knight, which I haven't made videos on, in Arkham City, Batman is running around like a chicken with his head cut off, trying to figure out what Protocol 10 is while trying to cure himself of the disease that Joker put in his blood. By the end of the game, we get this line of dialogue.
Joker's taken Talia. I'm going after them.
You can't. Hundreds will be killed. I need your help to stop the attack.
He'll kill Talia.
You need to think this through. Batman can't let all these people die.
My tracker's not activating. Reroute all Wayne Tech satellites to boost the signal.
I can't do that. I realize it is difficult, Sam. But you need to decide if one life is worth sacrificing to save 1,000.
Don't do this, Alfred.
Batman must save Gotham. I'm sorry, but deep down, You know I'm right.
And before this, Batman had to be saved by Catwoman. But we get that line of dialogue, and it's Batman being reminded from his allies, people helping him, that what is more important is making sure that all of these lives don't get lost and unfairly murdered. And the reason he has to be reminded of this is because Batman has a fear of losing the people that are closest to him. So Batman has to go stop Hugo Strange, and not figuring out that he was working with Ra's caused Hugo Strange to die, and even though he is a villain, Batman doesn't want Hugo Strange to die, so that's one example of him failing in the back half of this game. And then due to the fact that he had to go stop Hugo Strange, this causes Joker to kill Talia, another example of him failing, and then Joker inadvertently makes Batman stop him from giving Joker the cure, even though Batman would have and wanted to save Joker, because Batman cares about his villains because he knows a lot of them are just mentally very unwell and he wants them to get help. And Joker's death mentally affects Batman very heavily. Batman may have defeated the external conflict in this game, but he still, at the end of this game, doesn't beat the internal conflict. At the end of this game, he loses. As far as Arkham Knight goes, Batman's internal conflict in that game is the fear that his loved ones will die and that he will wind up losing himself and turning into Joker.
After all, you've seen what happens when you drag your friends into this crazy little game of ours.
And the fear toxin amplifies both of those things. So what Batman learns at the end of the game is that he has to stop trying to control every situation that he is put in, and stop trying to control everything that his allies do, and this is why Batman gives up at the end of the game, knowing that Scarecrow will reveal his identity. He is giving up control and letting Jason help him at the end of the game, because he knows Jason will follow him, and he believes that he needs to retire the mantle of Batman for good, because that is what will keep his loved ones safe, truly, because that will stop people from going after them to get to him.
Your fears got the better of you, I see. How fitting that I will win, and Batman's life will be over. Not because of what I have done to your precious city, but because you are scared of what I will do to your friends, your family. They are your weakness, hiding just below the surface.
But at the end of the day, Batman's ending to this series is tragic, and he still loses. He does not get a happy ending.
Look after him, Jim. Look after them all. You've been a good friend. The best I could ask for. You were there at the beginning. And now, you get to see how it ends.
If that is perfect character, Mary Sue shit, I don't know what the fuck stories you are watching. I like, what the what?
Your intellect is as weak as your dollar. Failure is your destiny. You disrespect yourself and your nation. You are made of stupid.
Batman had the same amount of plot armor in his 4 games. Y'all cry over literally anything nowadays. If the game isn't for you, just don't play it. It's not hard. This man is trying to say that Arkham Batman has had just as much plot armor in his 4 games as the Suicide Squad do in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. It's funny that you would even need 4 games to try and get to 1 game. And it's even funnier that it's not even true. A man with no powers punches out a giant crocodile man who could easily just bite his head off, but he's somehow able to hold this giant creature back. He takes out literally his entire list of rogues and stops Scarecrow's fear toxin all in one night. The list can literally go on forever because the main character of any game always has plot armor. Well, we've already went over how that's not true. And in Arkham Origins, when he's holding Killer Croc's head back, that's one, because Killer Croc is already fatigued, Batman is punching him, making him even more fatigued, as well as blowing up canisters on his head. This is also the weakest version of Killer Croc in the entire Arkham series, and again, Batman is not a normal human. In reality though, if you've played those games and haven't seen very obvious plot armor, he has in all 3 of them, I thought there was 4, you need to get your eyes checked, because he has an insane amount of it, to be able to do any of the stuff that he does as an ordinary human with no powers. I make my argument. I'm not even gonna bother replying to you anymore. You're honestly giving me a headache with how stupid you sound. Enjoy your day, little bro. L2 Rush. You're an idiot. Alfred never pulls up and one-shots all the villains. This is clearly plot armor for all the villains. You know, MC Bad Robot Voice, this may just be the best argument I've heard all night. But yeah, on a serious note, I got a lot more comments that I could go over, and I have already gone over them in a live stream, and it's also a live stream where we go over a Forbes article that lies about me and lies about the Suicide Squad game. So if you want to see more of that, we go over it in that stream. I want to give a quick shout out to all my Patreons. If you would like to support me on Patreon, it's only $2 a month, and I would really appreciate it. I'm sorry my voice is really, like weird compared to my other videos. I am still sick. I should have had this video out already a couple days ago, but, you know, it's kind of been kicking my ass trying to record audio and stuff with like a sore throat and a, stuffy face. But I thank you all for watching, and, yeah.